Hello guys and welcome to my Volvo P3 D5 full service video, and if I can do it, you can do it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with the fuel filter, which is on the rear. We're going to do that first. We're then going to prime the fuel, start the engine, and while I'm turning the car around, driving around the estate, turning it around, going to let the oil warm up ever so slightly to help with ease of getting the oil out when we drop the oil. So once the fuel filter is done, we're then going to turn the car around, get a little bit warm, go for a small drive, do the oil and the filter, and then finally we're going to do the air filter and the pollen filter last. You can do it any way you want. Anyway, there's not a correct way, but I find it's a little bit easier doing an oil change, whether the oil's slightly warm, a little bit a little bit more friendlier to the engine, and it just makes it easier for it to drain as well, because when it's completely cold, it's a bit of a nightmare to get it all out as much as you can. So without further ado, let's get under the back of the car and let's get going. So, someone decided to fit a subframe in the way. Not only a subframe, but more importantly, the anti-roll bar. This blocks access here to get any sockets in. If you've got a 32mm spanner or a special tool that can get in there, use it. If you can't, like me, then you want to use a 30mm to remove the 4 anti-roll bar bolts, top and bottom, and on the other side, to pull this out the way so we can get access to the fuel filter. So there we are guys, the anti-roll bar's now here, which is very much in the way. Excellent design, Volvo. And basically what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be loosening this with a 32mm. We've now got access. There is a smaller nut here you can remove. That is to drop the fuel out of it, but if I'm honest, you don't really lose a lot from that. So I'm just going to take the whole thing out and drain it. Once it's out, we're going to change it all over. I'll show you how to do it. Put it back in. And then the fuel filter's done. I've got a lovely bird behind us somewhere making some delightful noise. So it shouldn't be a lot. These are meant to be on there very loosely. There we are. See, there's literally very little access even with that gap made. You've got to be careful with these plastic holders not to spin it and round off the plastic heads. Not any fuel come out yet. There's a tight gap here between the dry shaft. Okie dokie, that was... Oh my god. That's just gone all over the screen. That's a lot of fuel. Oh my god. Yeah, that's all over my glasses and the screen, as you can see. That's like 20 quid. Go on, let's pull out the fuel filter. Can't get, well, I literally got it everywhere. I was like, only going to get a little bit, bloody heck. It's just a pull down the filter. As you can see. Oh, even more fuel, that's another 20 quid. It's got a proper OE Volvo filter, and the OE Volvo filter is looking, I don't know if you can see that on there, it's looking very black, very dirty. So the new one has a push fit on one end, and we're going to push fit that back in, clean up the housing, and then we'll get it all back together. So guys, while my hands are free, I'm going to get the filter back in first, and there's one more thing you've got to do before you put it all back together. I'm going to show you in just a minute. I'm just doing this while I've got cleanish hands. I'm going to try and get this back in as cleanly as possible. It's a bit difficult. So yeah, it's like a gentle pushing. You'll feel a firm, as you're pushing it in, you feel it firm up and then stop. So that's now in. And then the second thing to do, which you might want a little flathead for, is inside here is a seal. Here. So there is a little lift here. I'm going to try and use that first. There we go. There we are. So this hasn't been done for quite a while, and you can see by that filter for a start that it hasn't been done for quite a while. And it has been ran either on crap diesel or low on the tank, because that's quite black. And I'm going to press in the new one, which actually you don't need a screwdriver for. in all fairness. I just like to always have one for this sort of stuff because the seals can be quite tight. This is actually quite a nice one. So these only need, as stated on here, 25.5 Newton meters, which is very little. So they go mental, because you will damage this, being plastic. It's probably a bit of a pain to end up replacing it. As to how you angle it back in, is like this, like that. There we are. Tighten it back up by hand. And now what we're going to do before we start, after we put everything back together of course, is we're going to run the ignition through 3 or 4 cycles. So that's where we put the ignition on, leave for 30 seconds. That's where the fuel pump will prime. Because we haven't got a manual prime on this engine, we want to do it that way. So we're going to start over 30 seconds and then turn the ignition off and wait. Ignition back on. 30 seconds, back off. We're going to do that 4 times, 4 or 5 times, and that should give it enough time to pump the fuel from the tank back into the filter housing. Like so. So I'm going to put that back in. Time to tighten it up, get the anti-roll bar back on, and I'll see you when the engine is up and running. So if you're doing this by yourself, use a lever bar here to apply some pressure to get these back up into position, because you don't want to be cross-threading these. So just up in here and then push up. As you can see, mine already in. I'm going to do the other end, get them in hand tight, and then I can tighten them all up. So now the boring bit. Ignition on. Wait for 30 seconds. Repeat this 3 or 4 times. Okay guys, so the car has been driven for a very short distance, just a few minutes. We've got to remove the undertray for this. I thought this little flap here was for quick access into the sump plug, but it's not for some reason, which is a bit useless. But either way, here we are. So T30, 1, 2, 3. For the same other side, so 4, 5, and at the back there's 6 and 7. I think there's some additional ones, but I'm missing those on here. But that's why I do them last. Let's get them off. That's it. Do the middle one last here. Otherwise, if you do this first, it just sits on top of you while you're trying to undo the rest, which is rather annoying. So do all of the ones around the front, to the sides and back, and do the middle one last. Right, we'll mark into my dry engine bay, which is quite rare for a Volvo or any of my cars. Here's a sump plug. They can differ depending on whether they've had aftermarket or OEM plugs put in. But I'm going to tell you what this is in just a moment. I'm going to get myself set up. Before we loosen this, we're going to do 2 things, which I'm going to show you now. We're going to loosen the fuel cap. This allows for a little bit of air release through the engine bay. So when we drop the oil, it allows a little bit more flow through the engine, in and out. And then secondly, we're going to come down here and we're going to loosen the oil filter and remove the oil from that seep into the sump before we drop the oil, because we want to take out the 200, 300, 400, 500 ml that's in there out with the dirty engine oil, rather than leaving it in there when we refill it back up. So for your oil filter, it's a rather unusual size. It's a 36 ml. Luckily I had this for some other job in previous. I think it was for a dry shaft bolt or something, but yeah, 36 ml. What we're going to do is we're going to go on here. We're obviously going to loosen the oil filter housing off. I'm going to leave a mark here so I can see where it was torqued to last time. I'm going to leave a nice little line, or try and get a pen. I'll see what I can find, probably a little plastic line. I'm going to scratch a line into there so I know I can line this back up so I don't over torque it. We're going to loosen this off and remove the housing and the filter. I'm then going to refit the new filter once it's all cleaned out and tighten that back up. Obviously the top of the flap is open, like I said. I'm then going to drain the oil, and then we should be good to go. So the filter's out, check through. It's pretty clean. It's not too bad. No metal particles, which is what you want. So they're both out now. And then I'm going to take the seal off the old housing. I'm going to use a bit of the oil from there to wet the new seal to go on there. There goes the new seals on. Make sure it's all lined up. They do leave a little indentation here, as you can see. A little slit in front of you. Not the fun is there. To get a little screwdriver in there to get the old seal out. The oil filter's now back in. The cap is open. And we're going to get underneath and drain the oil. So this one here is a 70, so I'm going to loosen it off, drop the oil, and then we're going to put back in 5.5 litres. The recommended oil level is 5.9, but if you overfill it on these, you have a continuous sensor warning coming up, which I don't want. So there's obviously going to be some left in the engine, so I think 5.5 would be perfect. We can then go for a small drive, park it up, recheck when it's cold, just to see how far off the high or the maximum fill point we are. But I would say 5.5 from what I can see in the forums is the general consensus of size to go for. Oil done, 5.5 litres in, all tightened back up, Undertray back on. Now it's time to do the pollen filter, which is inside the car. So the good old pollen filter. I want to pull out this bit of trim here. As you can see, it just yanks out. It's got retaining clips. Next, under here, there's two Torx bits. Here and there. We're going to remove both of those to drop this panel out. Disconnect the light. And we can pull the carpet back to get to the filter housing, which is over there. So remove the two T25s, and then this just basically pulls forwards and falls down. Undo this clip to get this out of the way, then we can get to the filter. See, that is it there, with those flaps hanging off the inside there by the firewall. That is the holder, so you pull those clips and that'll come off, so you can put, well, basically slide the filter in and out. So as you can see, mine was very overdue, and as you can see, the airflow came out like this. So you want the airflow pointing towards the car, airflow arrow as the back of it. Absolutely disgusting. You want to go this way with the airflow arrows pointing towards the interior. As you can tell by me being slightly out of breath, that was a fight. One of the hardest fights I've ever had with a filter. But it is in there and in. So now I'm going to get it back on, get the blowers going, and that is the service complete. So now it's just reassembling. So I've already slotted the bolt back in. I'm now on the hunt for my missing screw. Let's see. There it is. Get that one back in here. And then it's just basically aligning up the tabs on the plastic trim to go into here. And there we are, one filter done for another few thousand miles before I've got to do it all over again. Let's try and get this back. This looks like it's going to be a pain in the ass. I did actually put the chair back for this. I still think it's going to be a pain in the ass. So I'm putting in the backside first, tucking this down behind the seat. I'm going to fire this forwards. There we are. Oh, that's way out. Oh, that's way out. It's meant to be there. Like that. It's really gentle. I'm pushing this all back in. Don't want to be missing anything out. So the air filter removal process is very simple. This is an 8mm. It could be different depending if you've had this replaced or not. This Jubilee clip, 8mm or a flathead spanner. You can then pull this tube out from here, and then in here you have your filter. Around here you have these T20s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've got one screw in this one randomly. That's what you'll remove. When you remove these, you can pull this up out the way, and the filter literally just sits in the lip inside the bottom of the airbox here. That's as simple as that. I haven't changed it on this instance because I put performance 1 in when I bought the car, so it didn't need doing, but it's as simple as that. So guys, thank you so much for watching the service video. Obviously if you have any questions, feel free to put a comment below or message me on Instagram.